Hey guys, this is Uncharted 2, Tranq gun only, crushing difficulty playthrough. But when it regards to this mission, it doesn't really matter because there's not going to be any combat. I was actually thinking about skipping this level entirely and the next one, but I think for the case of continuity in the playthrough, I think it's best that we include it. And the slow ones are good. Give me some chance to talk and slow things down. As I say, there's going to be complete puzzles, so I've got rid of Nate's swimsuit for this one, or the wetsuit rather, and we've just gone through his Uncharted Drake's Fortune look, because why not? Now this is going to be interesting because my memory's not amazing on this. It's been a while since I actually did all this, but we should be okay. As it's Uncharted puzzles always very simple. Simply move the book, look at the book, and it'll basically tell you what way to do it. I believe this wants to stay upright. It does. What we need to move is that thing, which we can do from here. That's right. So, mission 7, I believe, which is also another easy one. I think I talked a few things about what should be coming up on the channel, and here I've got a chance to sort of reiterate some of that stuff. So, we need to go to the other side now, don't we? Some of the stuff to note is I won't ever do more than 3 projects at a time. So, the Evil Within playthrough that I mentioned won't be starting until something's finished, i.e. DMC2 or this, or possibly FIFA. I mean, if we get into the closing stages of this playthrough, it may come out a bit sooner. Just because those other playthroughs take some time to make. And I can't remember how to get there now, that's it. They take a bit longer to make. This one I'm getting through pretty quick. But FIFA and DMC2 rely on other people. If it was DMC3 and it's just me, then I'd be willing to do an Evil Within one. But as I say, the next game that won't be the FIFA and whatnot will be the Evil Within, which should be a lot of fun. Quite a jumpy moment there. Other games that may feature could be, let's just look here, yeah, that needs to be straight this arm. Other things that could feature possibly is Resident Evil games. I'm tempted to do Resident Evil 4, just because it's one of my favourite games ever, and I'd love the opportunity to just talk amazing stuff about the game. Depends how tiresome that could get though, but Resident Evil 7, that's certainly an option.
Hey, come on, admit it.
I have been told by a very loyal viewer that they'd love to see some horror games, so certainly in the pipeline, I dare say, as we need to do this, and I think this is it, as Nate takes an absolute battering. I do feel like this is what the game should have done for Chapter 2, to be honest. It should have done a puzzle in the museum. I don't know how it could have done it plot-wise, but I think Mission 2 in this game would have benefited greatly from having a big puzzle in there, as opposed to a pretty poor stealth mission.
What is it?
I know I rag on that mission a lot, but it has to be said it is a poor mission.
It's a key.
I think it's easily the weakest part of the game.
Well, let's find out what it
I mean, Uncharted 1 did the very same thing, you know, a bit of an opening set piece followed by a puzzle level. And I suppose you could have, you know, accused Uncharted 2 if it had done that of just copying it. But, you know, it worked on Uncharted 1. The only reason it doesn't fully work on Uncharted 1 is because the combat's not as good and the enemy design isn't as good in Chapter 4 and 5.
Do anything?
And it gets a bit tiresome doing the combat, but this game doesn't suffer from that because they learn how to do that properly, vary it up, and it wasn't just constant enemies spawning.
I found the door it opened.
I mean, of course, there is the old phrase of one too many, but when it comes to combat encounters on Uncharted 1, it's a case of about 5 too many. There's always 5 spawns, just too many. I think some of those missions could have just done with freshening it up. As I say, it is easy to criticise Uncharted 1 for just being continuous combat, but I think it's important to understand the context of when Uncharted 1's released. It's releasing a year after the smash hit, and I mean smash hit, Gears of War, where that game was nothing but combat. But the difference there was Gears of War was able to rely completely on its combat because its combat was so good, and it still holds up for the most part. Sure, it's, you know, we're moving away from the whole third-person cover, you know, sitting behind a chest-high wall and just shooting enemies from cover, but at the time it revolutionised, you know, cover-based shooters. you know, covering shooters was mainly used for,
Right, I'm coming.
well, not shooters, it was used for stealth games like Splinter Cell and Metal Gear Solid.
Little drop.
And Gears of War changed that.
Underestimated.
And, you know, there's a few subtle things that make Gears of War a much superior game in terms of the pure combat. Obviously, there's a lot more variety to it, with its weapons and how they work and everything. Enemies are bullet spongy, but it's designed that way and the ammo is made that way. And it is fun to pump, you know, whole magazines into Locust, along with the active reloads. As we've got a bit of an exciting moment here, actually. I'll just interrupt my tangent. I don't think... I'll see if I can use the Tranq gun here. I don't think I'll be able to. There's a very Temple of Doom-esque moment. But let's have a look here. Can I use the Tranq gun? Yeah, I can. Aha, it is a Tranq gun run.
I hate spikes.
Okay, what now?
Is this working?
We gotta get out.
We did it. So, you can do it with the Tranq gun. That's a moment confirmed.
Life is still flashing before me.
But as I was saying with Gears of War does a lot of things better than Uncharted in the combat. One of them is signalling when combat is happening and when it's finished. Gears of War uses some very obvious moments, such as music, and it's always very obvious when the mission ends by having, you know, a big, like almost like a horn sound. As we move on to Chapter 9, I'm going to keep it in this mission, in this episode. I might as well. There's no point separating them, I think, because it's all puzzles.
Yeah, it looks like the Perba dagger.
But I say, Gears of War, when a combat section is over, the music, you know, you get the music stops with big dramatic moment. Characters will generally engage in conversation. Also, if your squad mates are down, they'll be instantly revived, and the game makes this super obvious. It's always very clear when combat's over. Uncharted never really gets that down. Maybe it does in Uncharted 4. I'm obviously less familiar with that game and its systems, purely because it's, you know, it's the one that's been out the least, and I've had less time to play through that one.
One down, two to go.
But Uncharted 1 particularly is criminal of not signalling to the player very much so when combat's over. Sure, it has a quite obvious thing in how Drake's running speed changes, but it's quite subtle, and I feel like you've got to play the game a good 5 times to quite understand that. And if you don't, you are. There are many times where the music stops, and you're probably going to get caught out by one enemy with a shotgun. And it's just little things like that that make Uncharted 1 just a bit more infuriating and a bit more difficult to deal with. And of course, an inferior game to Gears of War in the combat.
Such a good idea down there.
As I always do wonder with the design on this, like, do you really think these, like, Shambhala, the people who built all this, really made it so you had to climb on this face to activate this? Doesn't seem quite right, does it? You do wonder how it was meant to work. They clearly designed all this with Nathan Drake coming round in, like, you know, centuries later. It was obviously designed with that in mind. But it's interesting with the puzzle balance. Obviously this game, I think, has a bit more puzzles than Uncharted 1 ever did. Uncharted 1 kind of didn't really do with puzzles for the most part, especially in the second half. You know, from Chapter 4 onwards, it is very much just combat. There's where are we dropping down here? There we go. Very obvious camera change, which is good. Uncharted 2, of course, tried to space this out, because you'll be doing puzzles right until like mission 23, I think.
Nice work.
As this will move, and we stick that there.
Hold on.
But this chapter and these 2 chapters, I think, are perfectly placed. Actually, you've done a lot of combat-heavy stuff, and then the game slows it right down perfectly with these puzzles. It's something Uncharted 1 desperately needed, I think. At this point in Uncharted 1, you're probably doing the Jeep chase and then the water skiing, which is just abysmal. You know, even Nolan North knows that sucks.
Looks like that blade opened up a new path.
And of course, Uncharted 4 slowed things right down. I would say almost like 50% of that game is pretty much puzzles. A lot of that is to do with the Last of Us influence in the game. Are we on the right side? I think so, yeah, we are. You know, it had that Last of Us influence, so the game was a lot slower in that department. So I always think there's a valid debate to be had between Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 4, and I don't think either side. You know, I would never begrudge anyone or completely disagree if someone was to come around and say they prefer Uncharted 4. I think it's completely a matter of opinion. For me, I think Uncharted 2 is the superior game. Now, can we do this with the Tranq gun? We can, yeah. A bit slower, but it can be done. Yeah, there we go. It's a good job Nate came here when guns were around, wasn't it? But I say, there's a valid debate between Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 4. I think it's kind of what you prefer at the end of the day. Am I missing something here?
We just need to adjust that other reflector.
Yeah, I'm waiting on Chloe, that's the problem.
Good, that's it.
We'll pop that there.
That did it.
I mean, this kind of reminds me of the clock tower bit in Uncharted 4, actually, because that game does pacing very well, I have to say. You know, with puzzles, you have a good like 20 to 30 minutes in the clock tower solving a puzzle. Then for perhaps the most amazing sequence in a third-person shooter, possibly on the PS4, that whole jeep chase, how it starts you being chased by the truck to then moving into a jeep, driving through the city, and then subsequently, taking on the convoy and rescuing Sam. I think it's quite possible. It's Naughty Dog at their very best when it comes to these set pieces. It's the culmination of 4 games of a fantastic series. And it's when sequels, just get it right. But I think this is going to be the end of my ramblings, because this is the end of the mission. As we've got to go down a big ladder.
I guess so.
But I hope you've enjoyed these 2 puzzles. Nice change of pace, I think, for once. And I believe that's it, guys. So yeah, we'll finish there. I'll see you for Chapter 10 when combat will return. Thanks for watching.